These Dollar Tree placemats looked basic, but wait until you see what I turned them into. Hi, I'm Loli. Let's create something beautiful and find a little joy along the way. For this one is going to be functional and fun. I'm going to use 2 of these dowel rods from Dollar Tree and 1 of these bamboo-like placemats that I got from Dollar General for $2. We're going to go ahead and open up our placemat. And I'm going to position these dowel rods on each one of the ends. The dowel rods are going to go in the front side of the placemat, if that makes any sense. And I'm going to add some hot glue right here at the top, making sure the dowel rod is nicely centered as well. We have the same amount of dowel rod on each of the ends. And then I'm going to use some hot glue to attach this in place. I'm going to attach it as you see right there. We're going to start by unrolling it, adding hot glue to our edge, and then rolling our dowel rod back in place, making sure that we're not shifting anything as we are doing that. I'm going to hold it there in place until the hot glue dries. And make sure you don't put too much hot glue because you don't want it to seep through to the front of the placemat either. And then I added a little bit more hot glue, pressed it in place until that dried, and then added a little bit more until the dowel rod was completely covered and it looked nicely done right here. And we want to make sure that that stays in place, so we're going to hold it right there until that glue dries. Then I flipped it and did the same thing with the other side. Next, I took some of this macrame cord that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to create a hanger using it. So I'm just going to cut a piece that is big enough to tie on the edges of a dowel rod, leaving enough slack to have it hang. And once I'm happy with the height of the hanger, I'm just going to go ahead and tie this onto the dowel rod. At this point, I thought this was going to be it. But you know what? I was like, you know, Loli, you are extra. So once I tied the second one right here, I decided, you know what would look cool with this? Sand tassels. So I trimmed the edges of this shorter to about the size that I wanted the tassels to be. Then I took a couple of pieces. Well, apparently here I'm fraying this first, which I don't know why I did, but I did. So I frayed these. And then I'm going to go ahead and take some pieces of the same macrame cord, and I cut them at about 4 inches long. Then I threaded those pieces through that knot that I did here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slip it on the side as you see there, put the cord through, and then slip it back on. If you do this, if you want to do tassels with it, I would say just do this before you put the cord on there to begin with. But, you know, I put the cart before the horse. It was like a, ooh, this will look cute kind of moment. So that's why I did it that way. All right, so we did the same thing with the other side as well. And then we are going to go ahead and fray everything together. And then just make sure that you tighten up your knots really nicely. And then I just unraveled all of them to create a nice fluffy tassel. And I did the same thing with the other side. Once those were done, I'm going to take more of this macrame cord and I'm going to add tassels to the bottom also. I cut pieces of macrame cord that were about 8 to 9 inches long. I did about 3 for each side. And make sure that my edges were pretty even. And then we're going to tie them right here around the bottom dowel rod. I'm going to do a double knot. And then once that knot is placed, I'm going to begin fraying or unraveling each one of the edges of here to create a nice tassel. And I did the same to the other side. And that is it for this one. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project? I love it. For this one, we'll be using this beautiful placemat we got from Dollar Tree. I just thought it looked so high-end. And I'll be using these coasters that I got from a local thrift shop. I think I paid about $1 for them. And I painted them with 1 coat of rich black folk art chalk paint. Now we are going to cover one of the sides with our placemat. I just want to see exactly how much I need to cut off. I'm going to place the placemat right here on top of one of the coasters to see exactly how it's going to fit. I'm going to make sure that the angles are sitting pretty even in the corners. And then I took some Tide Bond Quick and Thick. I'm going to add it to the entire surface here, making sure that I have it in every little nook and cranny to make sure that that entire placemat adheres securely. And then carefully, I'm going to place my placemat right in place, making sure that my angles are straight, that everything is secure on the edges. And we have a little bit of seep through on here, but that is fine. This glue dries clear. So I'm just pressing it down on the edges. There was a little bit of curvature on the edges of this placemat. So I'm just making sure that as this glue is drying, I am pressing on those so it stays adhere and the corners do not lift. Then I trimmed off the excess using my scissors. And as I'm doing this, I'm making sure not to pull onto that placemat so I don't move anything because that glue is still quite wet. Now we're going to go ahead and make sure again that everything is secure on the edges. And I did the same thing with the other three. At first, I thought I can just take my sanding block and let's go ahead and just sand off the excess placemat off of this, but it didn't quite work out that way. I was sanding and sanding and sanding and nothing was happening. So I took my X-Acto knife instead and my cutting mat and I just cut very closely to the wood, being careful not to destroy the wood or ruin my paint. So I just kept doing that with all sides. Here, since the corners were a little bit rounded, I had to, I kind of cut the wood a little bit. So just be very careful here. Make sure that you're on the placemat before you run your hand there. For the corners, I'm just cutting there in a little angle as well, since the corners of these coasters are round. And I repeated the same process with the other three. When I was done, I was left with a lot of flakes from that glue. So I'm just wiping it off with a tissue. And once I had cleaned that, I cleaned my table very well because we want to make sure that we have no little dust or anything for the next step here. All the cleaning and dusting kind of left it with a little bit of streaks of residue behind. So I'm coming in to clean up those areas. And also here where I cut the wood a little bit, I'm coming in with some of the paint there and cleaning off those edges. And also on the seams where I cut the placemat, you can see like the little jagged edges white there. I wanted to camouflage that as well. So I made sure that the paint also covered that white little fibers as well. So this looked nice and finished. Here, the attention to details makes the difference between it looking cheap or high-end. And I repeated that with all of them, including the backs. Now I'm going to take some dishwasher safe Mod Podge and I'm going to cover the front here and also the sides and the backs. And I'm going to let them sit to dry. Here you can see them how they dry clear. And we are going to create a beautiful little box to put these in. So I'm going to use one of these crates that we got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the tag from the back. It was being stubborn, so for the last little piece, I just had to use a scraper. Now that it's nice and clean, we're going to give it 2 coats of Full Coat Rich Black paint. Then I took 2 strips that will fit the middle slat. These are 2 strips of the placemat, and we're going to glue it to the middle slat using some Tide Bond Quick and Thick. I made sure that everything was nice and straight, and we are going to repeat the same thing with the other side. And now we have the perfect holder for our coasters. That is it for this one. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project? I love it. This one is so easy, yet so cute. We're going to start with this placemat that we got from Dollar Tree. It's from the summer section. We're going to remove that tag from there and come in with some of our acrylic markers from the Dollar Tree. These are available right now at the tipping of this video. I'll be using this green one right here. I'm going to start by just coloring that first rim. Like this placemat has like different pieces glued together or sewn together. So I'm using the rim here as the limit, and I'm going to completely cover this first rim right here with this green marker. When I got to here, this is where the stitching kind of stopped. So I'm going to just go ahead and try to match the two edges together. So the thickness of this is the same, but the stitching doesn't help me much here. So you just gotta try to keep it as even as possible and making sure that it will match the other side. And then I just filled in the edges here, and we have a beautiful perfect circle all on the edges. You can do 2 coats if you like. I want this to have more of a rustic look. Now I'm going to take this white paint marker from Walmart. It came from, is Apple Barrel? Yes, it's an Apple Barrel. And I'm coloring in that second row here. Here, this row is a little bit more even. So I'm just using the edge of the stitching again as my limit. And I'm just going to fill in all the way around as well, the entire placemat. At this point, we also have some discrepancies. So we are going to go ahead and then trace here the limit, trying to make it as even as possible. And once we are happy with how it's united, and then making sure that the edges match in girth as they do on the other side, and then just fill in the difference on here. So here I'm seeing, okay, there's a little bit of a difference. So let me fill in this portion here, and then I'm going to just fill in the rest of the rim. At this point, this could be used for Cinco de Mayo, as this is the colors of the Mexican flag. Or if you are a Mexican, you can use this as well, representing your country. Or you can use it also for Italy. It's also the colors of Italy. So if you have like an Italian party coming on, or you just want to represent the country, you can use that. But I'm going to turn this into a watermelon. So I'm taking a black marker, acrylic marker from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to color in little seeds all around. I'm trying to stagger them in different positions so they look kind of symmetrical, but at the same time I want them to look a bit random. So I just kept doing that until I went all the way around the entire placemat. I'm doing it in the red portion, and I think I went about 3 or 4 rows in and left the middle empty. And that is it for this one. You can make a set of 4 or just use this one as a centerpiece. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, here are a couple more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by. You're amazing. Bye.